I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Donnie and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
Get my head up.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just
May not look like you.
look at it.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Moss?
Oh, my heart,
Happy 20th anniversary.
my heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Johnny.
Letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, and dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh.
The doctor lived next door to the janitor to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we're just so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Donnie, for all you've done. Let's keep doing the ball and more.
I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine.
First name's Donnie, last name's Lover, in it to win it. With my dear friend, Mr. Dark Boy. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Donnie. How are you, sir?
You know, it's a very troubling day in America. Young man Tyre Nichols was savagely killed. I'm gonna pass the ball to you. You are as expert as anybody else.
Yeah, well, thank you. If you're paying attention, I believe. That is, well, if you could give a backdrop, if you could, I don't want to assume when you say it's a very rough day.
I'll drop the details. On January 10th, 2023, Tyre Nichols died 3 days after a traffic stop by Memphis Police Department officers. The Memphis Police Department initially stated on January 8th that the traffic stop of Nichols was due to reckless driving. Just yesterday, they announced that, the five black cops.
Very important. Let's not minimize what you just said. It's 5 black cops that one would assume.
Bill Jr., Demetrius Haley, Justin Smith, Tadarius Bean, Emmett Martin III. 5 former cops charged in Tyre Nichols' death. They likened it unto Rodney King.
Interesting. Yeah, well, Donnie, I look at this from a couple perspectives. That's so, another brother who's dead as a result of a traffic stop now. Now, just for the sake of conversation, Donnie, I would argue that, let's say he was speeding or driving reckless. Let's just say we can substantiate that, and there's nothing so far that even remotely substantiates that. But if it was, do a black man have to die? See, it gets all. See, is it to the point where I'm going too fast and death sentence? And that's the reality of what we're dealing with right here. And what's unfortunate, Donnie, is we become, in my opinion, my observation, and through the information I read and view, like most people, it's very frightening because we're becoming numb, in my opinion. It's just business as usual. It's another black male killed by law enforcement. This time, the hype machine is because it was 4 or 5 black males, male cops that did this. But I'll say to people that, and Don, some of our conversations prior to the show, was I'm very conflicted because when you called me today, I was like, Don, I hear, I haven't even really went there because I had to process my emotion because I had to start conditioning myself again to remind myself that this is not business as usual. I should feel a certain kind of way. I should feel a great sense of loss. And I do. And it runs real deep. To the point that I haven't had any desire to this minute, not saying that I won't, to even review the video because I already know you killed a black male that ain't deserved to die how he died. I know it's horrific, and I'm just not ready for the visual. That's just me. But here's the dilemma.
You have to wrap your brain around it.
Yeah, but what
do you mean? Let's unpack that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. What'd you say, Don?
Let's unpack that. What do you mean?
Okay.
Are you saying that you've seen this scenario time and 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 time?
Yes.
And time and time and time and time again.
And well, let me add one more thing. And time again.
And time again.
And
you said earlier that we've become numb.
Yeah, I think, and I'm speaking of the brown and black communities, I think we've become numb in terms of how we should just move on to the next event. See, we're conditioned that, that happened Thursday, right? Because the likelihood of hearing it again by the end of the night is become a norm. And my issue with that is, more than anything, is we are in a very interesting time. And I think our communities, our people, we really need to pay attention to what's really going on. Those times where you say, man, I don't watch that news. I ain't got no time for that news. And I get it, because I came up with that with my grandparents. Don't watch 11 o'clock. I think we're in a time that's a little bit different now, Donnie. I think there's a large part of society that hoping we don't be informed as usual, that we don't know what's going on as usual.
Doc, I want to go back to this. You said wrap your brain, and when I hear that, let me tell you what I hear. I hear also that we haven't digested the last situation.
Exactly. I mean, I watch the NBA a lot. I'm a sports fan, football, whatever. Not even the NBA. Let me say that. I watch professional sports like most men. And we're constantly reminded of that when I even watch what I enjoy as entertainment. Black Lives Matter. And we're not, eliminate racism. I mean, this stuff is painted across American culture on TV, the NFL, the NBA. I mean, so it's right smack in our face. Now, on one hand, Donnie, we say, great, it's right in front of our face. But the other hand, I don't know if as a community, have we really absorbed the responsibility that come with that, Donnie? Because see, I've had friends of different races that I communicate professionally, as I'm sure you do in a lot of your professional circles. And I've had the question asked to me, how do you feel about that? Or, which I thought was one of the great conversations I had with one of my professional peers who happened to be a Caucasian, who we go back 30 years in this profession, who we really have developed a friendship. And he asked me one day, he said, Derek, what I don't understand is, why is it just an uproar when you're violated by a Caucasian or whoever it may be? That becomes a rallying cry. That becomes a marching cry. Now, I'm going to touch it. But where is the outrage at 350 murders in the community offended by, you can arguably say, the people you all know? Right? So we are in a very conflicting time, Donnie, because I think we are really, when we've always looked to our leadership and our government, and they should provide certain basic things, I believe. We pay into that. But I think we also need to understand that we need to provide. Go ahead.
That's where the problem comes in. The money don't hit our communities like it's needed.
Well, Don, you know why it don't hit our communities? In my opinion,
if you got to watch the money.
Yeah, but you got to watch. See, I think yes.
You got to watch the money. You got to follow the money.
I totally agree.
Okay. Hold up.
Go ahead.
Where did you live in elementary school?
I live right on Fulton Avenue.
Sandtown,
Donnie. Absolutely. Sandtown. And I agree with you, Donnie. And I'm saying that, of course, it's the money. But our problem is always with our leadership, especially our elective leadership, is that good afternoon, sir, that we don't hold our representatives accountable, so we in turn don't become their constituents, though they're supposed to be representing us but their constituents is somebody who have totally different agendas, and theirs is not ours. So until we hold our leadership accountable, meaning if you don't deliver on the bare essentials that are our values within our communities, then people get it twisted to think that our leadership, that we are their constituents, and we're not. They've proven that. Look at our communities. Look at the neighborhoods. Look at the blocks.
I don't see the investment in Sandtown. I don't see that.
There's not an investment in that brown community as a whole in Baltimore generally, because we're not their constituents. Most of our leadership we've seen the controversials and the charges and the fraud, and you can go on and on, because they never had to answer to the real constituents. So you can almost get a political position, and let me use where I grew up at in Baltimore City, and you understand that with that leadership role, you really don't have constituents. See, because constituents, that word, that's some accountability. That means you have to answer to your people in a certain kind of way. You just do if you're going to be a leadership. And we don't, and that's just a vacuum. And the vacuum is so big and it's so large, we look at it every day. And now the crazy part is we think because we see 4 or 5 black Memphis, let me emphasize, police, it didn't happen in Baltimore with Freddie Gray. We ain't even recovered from that trauma, Donnie. When I say
what we got in Sandtown, a renovated police station and a new funeral home. Hey, look, let's welcome in Morocco. Morocco's Vietnam veteran. He's in Atlanta. He helps veterans across the country.
Wow.
He's one of the biggest advocates I know. Welcome, Morocco. Welcome back, I should say.
Thank you. Great to yeah, he's loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's going in and out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's going in and out a bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great to join you guys. How's everybody?
Absolutely.
Good.
Honor and respect, sir. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So any thoughts, Morocco, on Tyre Nichols?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is I'm sure that you all probably talked about the baseline facts on the case and everything, but I find it quite interesting that and if they already as being projected, I find it quite interesting that the system, if you will, quickly fired them on the spot, put them in the street, going to drop the hammer on them. They're going to do some hard time, etc. Now, if they are truly guilty of the actions that they are accused of, then they should receive the full recompense of the law. But the interesting thing is how the system responded to them. They didn't even hardly wait for the film when it's Caucasian. Got to look at the film, got to tell you that don't rush to judgment. Let us look at it, and they suspend them with pay, and they get the full innocent until proven guilty. And so I find that dichotomy quite troubling. But again, if these officers are truly guilty of what they are accused of, then they got to take the full weight of this. But I think that Crump last night, as he spoke about this case, he alluded to what I'm talking about. He said, as we go forward, this must be the new standard. And the new standard should be is if they can exact this kind of quick reaction to these officers, then when white officers are accused of the same actions, then that action should be as swift also in their bailiwick. So that's the right now that has gotten my attention about the case.
So, Doug, you made that point earlier that they wasted no time. Doug, damn Prince George's County, where you are, remember the Ford brothers had the shootout in front of the police station?
Yes.
Around the same time, a sheriff was killed in Harford County. A white man killed that sheriff. Two sheriffs, or two guys shot, something like that. You never saw his photo. Months later, the Ford brothers, when they did that shootout, their pictures went up right away. Down in Prince George's County, where you at?
Yeah, it's so many layers to this, Donnie, and this is what I mean by our communities. We have to understand that, first of all, the video was released before if you ask me, before the family did a press conference. I mean, it was out there. One, because it was 4 or 5, whatever it was, black Memphis police that are being charged with this. We have become conditioned that this is something we just accept and move right along with. And we can't, but we gotta, the only way we combat that is that we have to become serious about really being invested in our communities. And without being too far to the left or right, I think it's all relevant. Look at what the Democrat, Republicans are going at state secretaries, people who oversee election rules in each individual state, communities, counties, and regions. All this is relevant. People going to assume that these 5 black males police out of Memphis are somehow probably can relate to the communities which they are policing. And I would argue that they probably don't, because most of the recruitment is not from the communities for which they ask the police. And once you extract the community policing part from that, you're just left with enforcement. And that's where we are in America. It's just about enforcement. When I came up, I mean, Don, I know we had some conversation we had officer friendly and the police was at your school, and it wasn't because anything was going bad.
Well, it was because the 60s weren't just that far behind us, the 68 riots.
I agree. I agree.
And so can you speak to their national fear of riots? Yesterday, last night, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. last night.
Yeah, and it always start off with peaceful, let's have peaceful protests. So now you set the stage once again for enforcement. So the fact that you said, all right, let's be peaceful, even had the family on it. Peaceful protest, peaceful protest. You setting a narrative already that this need to be dealt with in a very enforcing way. So what you do when you say that peaceful protest, you're gonna have what? Law enforcement's on high alert, right? So now the interactions again are very volatile. So there isn't no platform where there's real dialogue about how we move forward with this. There needs to be community policing. There needs to be, you can't just keep bringing police that lives 80 miles from where they go to do their job. They coming in town and then they going back. It's just not gonna work, Donnie.
Doug, we're gonna go out to Oakland, California. Hold tight, Morocco. Doug, you with us?
Yes, I'm right here.
Any thoughts on this scenario? What are they saying out in Oakland, California?
Well, first, thank you, Donnie, for this platform, this social media platform that is designed to give the real news, the unfiltered news in Black America. And thanks for joining Derek and Morocco. Nice to meet you both. But to that end, Morocco and Derek, both your thoughts in regards to we need to change politics, not only just in our communities and our neighborhoods, but in cities and the county and the state through the country. We Black men, from the time we are brought into this world, are looked at as at the bottom of the barrel. Our lives aren't valued. And now with the videos that they have coming out, we have many white people, a vast majority of white people don't even look at us as, what would you say it as, humans. Anytime you can kill a dog and you can have a majority of the community come out and forth, but you kill a Black man, we've grown numb to seeing Black people killed, and we need to get more involved in the political process. And give you an example. Out here in Oakland, I got involved in politics 2017 under, back then, Pamela Price, a well-known civil rights attorney who's now our district attorney, helped on the campaign. But we have got to start showing our people as city council members, mayors, board of supervisors, aldermen, etc. Then that way people will see us more in a humanitarian type. Mass media, ABC, NBC, MS, they portray Blacks in baggy pants, unintelligent, weed smoking, baby producers not taking care of our family. But on the BLACKUSA.NEWS, people are seeing us in a different light. We are projected based on media projection of us. Malcolm X said it eloquently more than 50 years ago. Media is the most powerful tool in the universe. And and I'll be brutally honest, and white people have used that tool to make us look like less than human. And even in the Constitution, we're only 3/5 of a human. Livestock have more value than us in our own country. So, saying all that, I want to go back to the political side. We need to start getting our people involved in the politics, in the neighborhoods, in the community, and the cities. I sit on the Community Police Advisory Board, and we have, over the last 2 years since we have a new Chief Armstrong been in here, there has not been one killing of one Black man in the city of Oakland. And that's big because it was almost a daily occurrence, cops shooting Black people. But we have got to start getting our people to vote. And I think Morocco said it best, and I think Derek piggybacked off of it. Our politicians don't value us in our communities because we don't vote. They take care of the communities that vote because that's how they get elected. No matter how much money a politician has, they can't get elected without votes. So there is a big map of city of Oakland, and it breaks down even into neighborhood. The politicians know almost house by house who's voting. So if you don't have a direct link to their job and keeping their jobs, you are insignificant. And that is what is happening now. They are not afraid of us because they, oh, them black people aren't going to vote. But white people, they get out and vote in masses. The LGBTQ plus community, they get out, and that's how they have more power than black people now. And we got black, and I don't have anything against the LGBTQ T plus, but they've learned how to mass together, bond together, and use that power as political power.
Yeah.
That's why they get a lot of things that black people over 400 years still aren't getting.
And let's go to Morocco. Morocco, you tend to agree with that. Morocco.
Yeah. You know, I received something. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Donnie, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A friend of mine on Facebook, yesterday somebody said, this is terrible with these black police officers. And the comment and the response was, they're not black officers, they're blue. And so you got that blue mentality with cops, which we've been seeing over the years. Now, Derek mentioned, this is important, Derek mentioned about the secretaries of state. And all across the country in the last big vote, you saw the secretaries of state having the power to carry out the laws where you can't bring grandmama some water in line. They're going to throw her out of the line. They're going to throw you out of the line. So that's lost votes. And right so there, all of this insanity around our, yeah, right there, so all this insanity around the voting and whatnot. So, yeah, so now I think we have to do a paradigm shift and start thinking even outside the box, because what's happening here, a lot of people tell me, well, no, this is not really so much that we need to concentrate on. But we're hearing about the browning of America and how in a matter of years, in a few years, that whites in America will be a minority because of Hispanic and blacks. And so you better believe that they are operating with these laws for voting, etc., to do with this fear. Now, you remember back in the days when the housing issue, back in the 60s and 70s, and the housing issue was such a big thing, and it took place. Man, they were in fear of a black moving next door to them. So you saw that fear in action. And so now with the concept that they are soon in America, they're looking as a loss of power, and they can't stand that. So subliminally, a lot of these actions and whatnot are based on that white fear. And so they probably, if those guys had not been kicked off the force, they would probably give them medals, because they're helping the guys on the weekends. Every morning you wake up and look on the news, man, here's some black folk and shot 4 or 5 people and whatnot. Everybody's got guns. And so they're looking at that like, okay, put more guns in the community, make them more accessible, let them start to eliminate themselves. And then we've got our own preservation that we're working on. So we need to start thinking a little bit differently of the way we've been handling this voting thing and how we are looking at it. We got to truly understand, as a Vietnam veteran, when I go out on combat missions, I got to read the terrain. I got to determine, is it a big force out there, and I got to have this 70-pound backpack and all this extra stuff, or can I just strap an M16 on, an ammo belt, and some grenades and travel light? So we've got to look at the terrain here and now start to change our thinking as we go on attack to save our black lives.
Mr. Boyd.
That's that's a lot to unpack because I agree with everything I've heard from your panel, Donnie. And I'll keep bringing it back to our communities. Like we said, we have to. I'm glad Mr. Morocco expressed how we need to reassess the terrain. I love that because I that's just my worldview right now. Because Donnie, as we talk about all the time, I think they banking on the lack of us unifying. See, we're known for being national electors, or we'll show up if it's somebody we like, we love, we'll stay in line for 2 hours. But the game we got to be in now is the in-between game. The national election, the president almost is, I don't want to say don't matter in America right now. That will be going a little bit stretched. But as you can see, the Congresses is where the real power, they're really trying to take the power from a president. We have to understand what's going on here. If we don't start holding out elect, this is only going to get worse.
Well, part of it too, Derek, is we play as the people the Democratic game.
Agreed.
Only a small percentage of us play the Republican game. Is that a disadvantage?
I think it's a lack of awareness. What I do respect about the Republican Party.
We talk smack about a black Republican. We talk real smack about him.
Yeah.
But Baltimore now the one Democrat. Whose fault is it Baltimore messed up?
Yeah, well, if I can highlight, going back to our former president, for one community, for the community for which I grew up in Baltimore, he called out Elijah in the Congress and said, what has he done for y'all? Really, what has he done for Maryland? The city is a mess. And he had no real response because he was a political figure which we endeared and loved, and I'm not saying we shouldn't. But if you want to really get down to tangible, what have he done to affect the communities? I had great difficulties finding his signature legislation for someone who was looked as a leader in the House of Representatives. I mean, what, one of the top Democrats in the Congress?
So I got a phone message about this show. Yep. I shared a thought. Okay, why is this now being talked about black and white? I haven't seen or talked to one person today that thought anything about this beating was okay, black, brown, or white. I hear what this person is saying, but my God, does he not understand Baltimore politics? Talking about the need to participate. He should come visit Maryland. I have no idea how Memphis is set up politically. This whole incident makes me sick so hard to understand. How in the hell could those dozen or more humans watch that happening to that young man? He wasn't resisting anything in the first encounter. He was running for his life. And this is from a friend of mine who happens to be a white Republican. And would you agree that it is very challenging as a black man in America, where race is in your face every single day? How challenging is it to look at what's going on through non-racial eyes? It's virtually impossible, isn't it?
Well, I would say, but that's what I would say our flaw is, Don. The flaw is, to me, is that we continue to look at this through a racial eye. And I'm not saying we don't have historical precedents to feel or look at it that way. I'm saying that it has been a liability, I think, at times for us because we only look at it one way, which is through that prism. And we haven't, to use Mr. Morocco, we haven't reevaluated and reassessed the terrain to understand that, yeah, it could be a component. There's always a racial component, but do we take the racial component in this particular messaging or what we're trying to accomplish as our people? I think that is one of the things we need to get, I would say, more equipped and be more aware of, is that, yeah, Donnie, you're right. It's in our face. I'm not minimizing that. but we can't take the first bait to think that everything needs to be driven by a racial tone. So,
But this is America.
So as a result, in America, they become very equipped and know how to prepare for us to respond in a very emotional and racial way because we're emotional beings, rightfully so. But I would argue we need to look at this whole platform different. We need to know how to adjust and move, and that terrain don't call for that today. That messaging really ain't gonna benefit us as a whole for that today, not dismissing our historical, how we've been impacted by all these things. Because like your white Republican friend who just messaged, I just referenced one of my Caucasian professional friends that we've been friends for 30 years. And the question was, which was a great question, and it gave us some dialogue, where is the marches? Where are the rallies for the 300 plus on average murder of black men in the city by us generally? And what is our plan to even deal with that? And we keep looking to a person. We get a mayor, oh, that mayor ain't doing nothing. You know why the mayor ain't doing nothing? Because we ain't asked him to do nothing, really.
But it's also a multi-dimensional attack, I think, on Black America, from education to mass incarceration to this whole thing on business. You have to be a minority business enterprise. Suppose I don't want to be a minority. Suppose I just want to be a small business. There's the Democrats. There's the Republicans. There's the civil rights leaders. There's the preachers. There's the fatherlessness in the black community. There's the health disparities. There's the insurance rates. There's the redlining.
But Donnie, if I may,
there's the investment in Montgomery County, but not necessarily Prince George's County to the same level. Or
but if I may,
in Atlanta with Morocco.
Yeah, our ancestors, our parents, how we came up, like you say, diet. Why did our parents live to 80 years and 80 years on the average, 85 years?
Smarter than us.
They were breast smarter. They ate well. They cooked their own food. They ate fresh vegetables. So we had a platform. To suggest we didn't have a platform for community, oh, we had that. We had a platform for our community. How would we eat? You know, how we took care of ourselves. So we always understood that the playing field, Donnie, ain't leaning toward us. It's not fair. And that's what I mean but we have to stop saying it ain't fair and know how to make that playing field work for us as a community. Look at the Vietnamese. They come over, they get a Chinese store in our communities. You know why? Because we don't hold nobody accountable for bringing business in our community to say, this is a partnership. So you're going to help the Little League round the corner. You should be sponsoring that Little League team down the street in your community, but we don't have even from us, and I'm speaking from us, where we say, if we're going to give you our business, this has to be a relationship to come in our community, but we don't have those barriers.
Morocco, what happened to us? What happened to us, Morocco?
I'm going to take a license when I say this. The integration happened to us. I was involved, and that's a good point, Derek, that foundation that you talked about. We don't have that foundation any longer. We're dispersed with all of the different directions and whatnot. Everybody's so individuality. Now I can and powerful was when they had the Montgomery bus boycott, and for over a year, the little old ladies that had to go work way out in the white neighborhoods and whatnot, they walked. Or people in the community, if you had a car, you picked them up and took them to where they had to go. The community was all galvanized. Now we've lost that platform that Derek spoke about. Everybody's got such a very platform now, and everybody's so worldly, and so we don't need any harmony. We're so individuality now. that we have lost our platform, and so we avoid sometimes crying out in the wilderness. That mayor that Derek spoke about is not necessarily responding because not enough cried out from the wilderness. Not enough turned up on his doorstep down at City Hall and demanded. And so that's what maybe all of this is, and pushing and galvanizing us back to our foundation and back to the platforms that we came from. And I don't want us to overshoot the runway and be too late. We've got to start coming back to who we is. You know, coming back to Grandma, Auntie, Annie, and those men that she's and took the battle to them. You know, we got to come back and our Lexus and leave our job and everything's doing okay. But when that foundation falls from under you, then that's when you come crying back like, well, what do we do now? So before it gets any further than it is now, we have got to and that's again the paradigm shift that I'm talking about. We can't lose our foundation and forget where we came from, because we're being disenfranchised and we're being picked off one by one because you have no unity.
Doug, we're going to go around the horn one more time. Doug out in Oakland, California. You still with us?
Yes, I am. This is a great panel here today discussing issues that can make a difference in our community. And there are two things here, gentlemen. The first one is we have a lot of house Negroes running around here. They get crumbs from the rich white folks to keep us in the fields. They don't want to, they are gatekeepers that keep the gate locked, and that's our own people. Give you an example, how here in Oakland, we had a black, we just had a mayoral race, and I supported the Asian girl. I've had a relationship with her for over 10 years. I've saw the work that she does for all people, as she was in City Hall as city councilwoman, and now she's the mayor. Now, the NAACP, Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce, and every other black organization called me an Uncle Tom, and how can you go with the Chinese girl? Well, let's look at the brother's record. First, he has done nothing in this community, in this city, for black people, except a few that he knows. The masses are starving, and he wants to.
Oh, the VIP parties. We know about them.
Yeah. Now, this brother has done nothing in his community to improve the quality for black people. Now we're gonna elect him to be mayor. So I say that to say this: we have to stop looking at just because he's a black man or black woman. Let's look at the history of what they've done. If you are an elected official, and I think you alluded to this, Elijah, by saying, or excuse me, Derek, by saying Honorable Elijah, congressman, was taunted by Trump and said, you guys are supporting someone who's done nothing in the community. And I don't have anything against Elijah, but if you are going to be an elected official, do something for your people, for your community. Clean up the parks. Put in programs in the community that will help keep kids off the street.
So, Doug, who's an example out in Oakland of a black leader who looked out for the black people? Like they say in my book, Unapologetically Black.
Elihu Harris was the mayor about 25 years ago. He did a great job. Who else was it? Oh, Barbara Lee.
And let me tell you, Doug does a show on our network Thursdays, 7 p.m. East Coast time. The Black Business Roundtable. He's our longest running show from California.
Thank you, Donnie. But all I want to say is, gentlemen, we got to start putting people in political position and high administration positions in the mayor's office and governor's office that will make us look more civilized instead of this hyperbia that goes on in general media that shows us as lazy, not doing anything, smoking weed, rapping. We got doctors, we got lawyers, we got accountants who are doing great things. We need to emphasize more on that, like we do on this BLACKUSA.NEWS network. And until then, even our own people look at us as some of them as villains and have this picture in their minds that we're not, our lives don't matter.
Welcome back to the show, Darius Gisentana. How are you, sir? It's great to see you, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Well, we have to hear from you. You are the future. You are the present. What saith you about Tyre Nichols? These 5 black officers who, beat him, as they say, like Rodney King. The fact that the video was released rather expeditiously, damn near considering. But come on, your thoughts.
It's honestly disturbing.
Oh, you want to speak to Morocco? You remember Morocco, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. War veteran.
Yes, sir.
And it was just
How you doing, Darius?
How you doing? Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Brother Coleman. Good afternoon, Brother Boyd.
Good afternoon, Darius.
Thanks.
I'm so looking forward to hearing from you.
It's just it was slightly disturbing to a lot of kids and a lot of youth throughout this city, because I'm not trying to promote violence, but when a lot of young brothers heard that and we heard where it came from, the first thing we thought was the white man's at it again. The white man's at it again. So everybody was almost ready to riot, ready to tear down the town. And then when we see the culprit and the oppressors, when we see that the oppressors were us, it's like, it's more disturbing than that is us doing it to us. And that's made a lot of people slow down, made a lot of people rethink what's going on within our community.
And what do you think that is?
Self-hatred, the self-hatred that's been taught for years and years and centuries and centuries.
Willie Lynch, they call it. Straight from the plantation. Turn light skin against dark skin, east side against west side, alphas against the omegas, the old against the young, the men against the women, and so on and so forth. Do that and you will keep black people perpetually divided. And Brother Morocco talked about black unity. Brother Dark talked about black unity. It's so difficult, especially when some of us do get in position, even as elected officials, but seemingly they don't have the testicular fortitude of a Maynard Jackson in Atlanta, of a Marion Barry in Washington, D.C., as a Coleman Young, of a Harold Washington.
It's just tragic and disturbing. It's very disturbing because when you hear anything coming from down south and police brutality, we don't think of our people doing that to us. And it's not just us as a community, it's their federal systems also, because we had task force up here that were up to no good. That was our color, but you see, they was pushed away. They was to a certain degree.
The Gun Trace Task Force here in Baltimore that they made an HBO docu-series on.
Yeah, they done similar things to people, and who knows what those guys did in Tennessee, those 5 men, before they were actually caught this time. So it's very deep from all points where you look at it, because it's not just maybe that was going on and they allowed it because they knew it was destruction against us.
Any other thoughts about the psychological? How does that make you feel as a younger black man, younger than us three?
Sometimes it's very hard, because when we get stopped regularly and things like that, and the car gets closer, we might see a black face and take a sigh of relief, like, oh, we're safe. we're okay. This brother is not going to harm me. This brother is just making sure I'm safe. There's no need to run when you see the Caucasian officer. You see him, 9 times out of 10, he's there to destroy you, and harm your family. When you see an African American brother or sister, you let your guards down. Now it's to the point where after the Freddie Gray situation and the task force situation, our guards are getting higher and higher, even with our own people as being the police when they're the ones that are supposed to be protecting us.
That is that's very heavy, and I hear you, Darius. If I can engage you, Darius, you said when you found out first, and I get it, our immediate reaction, white Caucasians up at it again, and you said the alert went way up. When you found out it was brown skinned brothers who were being, charged with this crime, and you say it calmed you down. Could you elaborate on that a little bit when you say calm you down? Because I guess what I'm saying, because the incident itself was still troubling. You know what I mean? Because we know it wasn't even the skin as opposed to the culture in policing. And like you said, so has that changed, in the circles that you communicate with? Even like you say, that perception, was there ever a time where you, I would say, even felt comfortable with the Black officers in your communities? Was there really ever a time?
No, not really. No, not really. It's been a thing going on, but there's things in place now within our city, especially with Ivan Bates as the new state's attorney. He's building bridges with the community and the police. And that's a hard bridge to build when we have our own doing these things to us. That's a very hard bridge to build.
Baltimore's police force is roughly 40%, 45% Black. The rest is majority white. But in other cities, it's not even that high. So, you think of the first Black cop in Baltimore, Violet Hill White, the first Black cop in Baltimore, and the precedent that she set. But then you look at everything that's come after that, and it's like the gold standard of excellence in our community, where we all had to rise a little higher. That thing is gone way down. There's no standard. We selling dope in front of old people, in front of kids. We shooting dope, not me, and not always us, but I mean, you're liable to see anything in the community these days. Nothing surprises me anymore. Not people having sex in the alley, not nothing. Not shooting dope in broad daylight on the train, shooting dope on the train. It's just Black, white, don't matter. We've reached a new level of low. Come on, Morocco, you the elder. Is he there? Come on, Morocco.
It would be so interesting if she was still. It would be so interesting if she was still alive, Dr. Cress Welsing, that wrote the ISIS papers, black female psychiatrist, and it would be interesting for her to hear her take on these 5 officers. It's interesting to me. It's like a Rodney King, except the principle hasn't changed. It's the same thing as Rodney King, and I thought somebody, may have been Derek earlier, said that these officers, the baseline with them is probably self-hatred, but we understand that. But 5 Black men, a Black man like that, it would be interesting to see just what the think was. I mean, you got the group think kind of thing where one hits, and then all of a sudden, well, hell, let me get my licks in, and all of a sudden that group think takes over. But this is it's kind of incomprehensible to me. Someone just posted to me in the past in neighborhoods or some experience, and and they said, well, the white officers would be better to you. Well, they would be better to you because they're doing dirty work for you. But it would be interesting what the psychology is that would make these 5 black men abuse another black man to that extent, and knowing how the eyes of the world are on the police. So that's something that I think would be interesting to break those pieces out, because it's going to repeat itself again. So I think that's one of the things we need to understand, the psychology of this a little deeper, other than trip. Doug, are you still there?
Derek, you set this whole show up. Let's bring it on full circle. We've heard from Oakland, California. Morocco's down there in Atlanta. You know, of course, he's been witness firsthand to the efforts of the Stacey Abrams, to the victory of Raphael Warnock over Herschel Walker. We didn't even unpack, you know, the scenarios of Ahmaud Arbery, Trayvon Martin, Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Mike Brown. The list goes on and on. You got the final statement.
Well, first, it's been an honor and a privilege to be on the panel, Donnie, to hear from everyone. These are, you know, these are leaders, and you're all the leaders in my eyes. Darius, keep your head to the street. Stay hopeful. Stay that radiant light, because we need you. We need you in a major way. And that may sound like a lot of responsibility, because it is. But, you know, there's a lot of love and support out there for you. I just think, you know, I want to thank y'all for helping me to process. I was telling Don, because I've been really, this one has been a struggle for me for all the obvious reasons. You know, it's been a complete struggle to process this one. Like Ms. Morocco said, to really get into the psychology of this gentleman in this era of policing, knowing very well how we already are treated by law enforcement, and you will perpetuate that, is just, it makes this, the magnitude of this, that greater to me. And so we have to get, you know, pay attention to the local politics. We have to hold our leadership accountable. To me, like the gentleman that spoke earlier, I forgot his name, it's not even about the skin for me. And what I mean by that, in terms of what can you do as a leadership to help this community in a real way? And we need to be strong enough and willing enough, and don't fall for that. Well, it has to look like me for me to support it. And I think there are some communities that bank on that with us. And as a result, like Donnie said, it is lowered our standard, you know, what's expected in our communities. Miss Smith, that lived on the corner down the street from me, I had the fear of H for her as much as I did with my mother or my grandmother. Or Mr. Morocco, that lived next door to me, I had just as much fear and respect for Mr. Morocco as I did my father. That's how we came up. That's how our communities have to find a way to get back to. And I pray that we will. And talking to this group of people today has made me very hopeful. I want y'all to know I'm very hopeful in a time where they're not giving us a whole lot to be hopeful for.
Well done. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. My name is Donnie Glover, and we'll be back Monday morning, 9 a.m. East Coast time. Have a great day.